Let's see. Here we go. It's time for Clubhouse Chatter. Here's Norm Ordez.
Hey, welcome to another Tuesday, and it's a beautiful day up here in the Eola Hills here in northwestern Oregon. And my guest today, I'm excited about this because this man, I remember, he takes me back to my childhood, as an early baseball card collector. He's got one of those names that just stands out that you never forget, you know, and that is Duffy Dyer. Duffy, how you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. I'm doing very well.
So I think I remember you on the first Donruss set, like 81, I believe, which is my favorite card set. And the name Duffy is what stood out. I mean, how many other baseball cards are there with a man named Duffy?
No, that's a very unusual name, especially for a first name. It's actually a nickname for me that was given to me at birth, sort of by accident. But it's not many people named Duffy.
So who gave you that? Did your mom give you that nickname?
Yeah, she did. It was in the 40s when I was born. There was a very popular radio program. It was a comedy show called Duffy's Tavern. And she was listening to the program when she went into labor. And after I was born, she was mumbling in that. And I guess she said one of the first things she said was, "How's Duffy?" referring to the program. And so they named me that. They gave me that as a nickname. And I've been called that my whole life by my family and everybody. So when somebody calls me by my real name, I very seldom answer.
So drafted by the Milwaukee Braves in the 38th round of the 65 draft, and then again by the Mets in the first round of the 66 draft, you came out of Arizona State. And one of my favorite people in baseball now is Bobby Winkles, and I've had Bobby on the show a couple different times, and you played for Bobby.
Yes, I did, and I'm very proud to say I did. He was a great coach, and I probably would have never had the opportunity to play in the major leagues if it hadn't been for him, because he was a great coach and a great teacher, and he was like a father to me.
You know, I get that. I hear that from quite a few other people as well. And, we try to chat once a week. He's got his phone open for me, and he told me that I could call and just chat baseball with him. He loves to talk. So one of my favorites. So you won a national championship in 1965. So now back in 65, did you guys go to Omaha as well?
In 60, in those days, freshmen could not play on the varsity. So in 64, Winkles took the team. I was a freshman in 64, and they went to Omaha for the first time, and they did not win it. So in 65, I was a sophomore, and then we went back to the World Series that year, and that's the year we won it.
Have you been back to Omaha since?
I managed in Denver, Colorado. The last year Denver had a AAA team, and so, we went there to play the AAA team. Okay. Yeah, so I have been back once.
So you've had quite the baseball career. So you played in, Cammie has told me that you played in the Little League World Series.
Right.
And you've won a national championship on the collegiate level. You also won a World Series with the Mets in 1969 with the amazing Mets.
Correct. That was my rookie year.
And so tell us a little bit about that. What kind of memories do you have from that?
Well, I have a lot of great memories. First of all, just going to New York and making the club, and just being a rookie, I was just in awe of being in the major leagues, going to all the parks I had always heard about. And my wife and I had two little children at the time, and it was really hard to adapt to New York, the way of life there, trying to get around and trying to find an apartment, and the lifestyle was so much different. Both of us grew up in Phoenix, and it was just totally different. So the adjustment was not only to Major League Baseball, but it was to just living in New York. And it was quite an adjustment, but it was certainly, we ended up loving it in New York, and stayed there in the off season and did the banquet circuit after we adjusted to the city, and ended up loving it there. And of course, being in awe of just being in the big leagues, seeing all the stadiums I had heard about all my life, and playing against all the great players that I had heard about all my life, and fulfilling my dream of playing in the major leagues was something else. And then all of a sudden, before you realize it, we're going from 8th place the year before to being in a pennant race. And it seemed like it happened so quick that it was really happened so fast that it was almost hard to believe. It seemed like it was like August and we swept the Cubs, as it was the first time we realized, hey, we're not that far out of this thing. We can win this thing. And we just played so good in August and September, and the Cubs struggled then, that we ended up winning I think on August 15th, we were 8 games behind the Cubs in the division. And I think we ended up winning the division by 8 games. So it was a 16-game swing there in about 6 weeks. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was. And then we were so hot, and we played against the great Atlanta Braves team in the playoffs and swept them. And then we played against a team we probably had no right beating, because the Baltimore Orioles were a dynasty at that time. They were so great. Had all the pitching and hitting and defense, but we caught them at the right time and beat them 4 games in a row after losing the first game. And like I said, it was over so fast that it just happened so fast, it was just hard to believe. All of a sudden, we're world champions, and it was just so exciting. It gives me chills when I think about it.
So I bet now with the Mets, them playing, the Dodgers, that's got to be pretty awesome, stirring up some memories from back when.
Yes, it is. I still have some allegiance to the Mets. Of course, I played with 3 other teams, and I've coached for a lot of other organizations. So I still root for the Mets. I'm happy to see them doing well. And they got a club similar, I think, to what we had. They got great young pitching, and that's the way we want it. And they've got good defense, and that's the way we won in '69, was with great young pitching and good defense.
I'm excited for the playoffs this season. So I've worked for the Giants for 8 years in the minor league systems and stuff like that, doing different things. And so, of course, I'm a Giants fan, but I grew up a Braves fan, so I never really was a Mets fan up until this year. And I started watching them, and, they got the trades. They're so much fun to watch, with that pitching and Cespedes, and, they're pretty exciting. In fact, the Blue Jays and the Mets were my World Series picks. So, we'll see.
I agree with you. They were mine, too.
I really like the Mets. They've got Matz going today, and, he's kind of a question mark, but, he's a heck of a pitcher. He's got to be, because he's there. But, now they've got something, with that slide that took out, what's his name, Tejeda there at second base. Now they've got more motivation now to beat the Dodgers, and
right.
It's very possible that it gets done tonight.
Yeah, I think so, too. Yeah, they've got a lot of motivation, and they got a great ball club. And Kershaw has his troubles in the playoffs, so I think they're going to do it tonight also.
And so the Mets, they're managed by Terry Collins. And I don't know how well you know Terry, but I think he's one of the more underrated managers in the game today.
He's done a great job this year. I don't know him real well. Just met him a few times. Said hello and that, but coached against him a little bit, but I don't know him real well. But, yeah, he's not got a whole lot of recognition, and he's had a tough year with the injuries. And, of course, it's tougher to manage in New York than it is anywhere else because of the media and all the pressure that's put on you that's not put on as much in the other cities. But Terry's done a good job this year.
So you wore the uniform number 10. Is there any special reason?
No, I wasn't a big number 10 fan until I got it when I was with the Mets, and then of course it was my favorite number after I wore it 6 years there. The funny story was we made a trade in '72, I believe, for Rusty Staub, and he always wore number 10 in Montreal. So the Mets called me one morning, the day they were going to announce the trade, and Rusty had asked for number 10. So they called me about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still asleep. And they wake me up and said, we're traded for Rusty Staub, and he's requested number 10. Do you mind giving him number 10? And I'm half asleep, and I says, no, I don't care. Go ahead. And I hang up. I'm laying in bed, and I can't go back to sleep, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. I can't give him number 10. I got a World Series ring. It's got number 10 on it. And my wife's got a ring that's got number 10 on it, and I like number 10. So I called him right back about 10 minutes later and says, I've changed my mind. Tell Rusty I'm sorry, but, I want number 10. I want to keep it. So anyway, I ended up keeping it until I got traded 3 years later, and then Rusty got number 10 back.
These days, stuff like that could bring big money. And so, I've heard stories of guys being traded to teams and requesting, from a younger player who's got less major league experience. And you could have it for $5,000. Yeah,
right.
So,
yeah, I've heard of a lot of guys getting Rolex watches and things like that. For buying. Of course, the guys didn't make as much money in those days, so Rusty didn't offer me anything. But
right.
Nowadays, they give out Rolex watches and money and things like that, but it would have taken quite a bit to get number 10 from me after I thought about it for a while.
So now you're managing the Kenosha Kingfish of the Northwoods League. What is the play like in the Northwoods League?
What is the what like?
The play like. So like the play. So you've got the play. Yeah.
It's very good college baseball.
Okay.
It's probably, I would say, most of the scouts rate it second best collegiate league behind the Cape Cod League.
Okay.
I think the Cape is rated the best talent, and from what I hear, our league, it's a big league. There's 18 teams in our league, so there's a lot of players in it, and I believe, everybody's told me it's the second best talented league in college summer ball. So there is quite a bit of talent. It's a pretty, very talented league. Quite a few kids sign out of the league or go back to college and end up signing. So very good league. Quite a bit of travel in it. Like I said, there's 9 teams in each division. So you play 72 games in about 76 days.
Right.
So it's a grind for the kids because most of the college kids have never played anything like that. They usually play Friday, Saturday, and maybe Sunday, 3 to maybe 4 games a week in college. So they've never played like 7 games or 10, 15 games in a row. So it's quite a bit different for them.
We have the West Coast League out here, so we've got like the Corvallis Knights, and so it's kind of along the lines of the Northwoods League and stuff like that. And that's what I've heard about the Northwest Leagues, is it kind of bounces between number 2 and number 3. But of course, Cape Cod League is number 1, and then the Northwoods League, and then the West Coast League are kind of there at 2 and 3. Now, when you were playing, did you play in any collegiate leagues?
Yes, I did. In those days, they had a league called the Basin League, which was in South Dakota, and I played in a huge town called Valentine, Nebraska, which is right on the Nebraska-South Dakota border. And most of the teams, there was a team in Rapid City, South Dakota, Pierre, South Dakota, Sturgis. There was one in Winter, South Dakota, and our team in Valentine, Nebraska. It was a much smaller league, but it was right up there with the Cape League. I think those were the only two leagues that I knew of at that time.
Right.
There were a lot of All-Americans in that, and I think we were right up there with the Cape. The Cape was, still, it was going at that time.
Right.
And that was in the early 60s. So,
and they also,
I played there 3 years.
And the Alaskan League was talent-wise was better than what it is
right.
now.
Yeah, much better. Yeah, that's all I heard about was the Alaskan goaltenders.
Yeah, you still do from time to time.
Yeah.
So your son Brian is your hitting coach. What is it like coaching with your having your son coach with you?
It's fantastic. He does a great job. He's a very good coach. He's a high school coach around here in the Phoenix area. He's very knowledgeable. He's been around baseball all his life, and he loves it. He played a little bit at ASU before he tore his knee up. And he's very knowledgeable of the game, and I hope when I retire and give it up that he's going to be able to take over in Kenosha, I hope. But he does a great job.
And so managing the Kingfish, it's not your first time in Kenosha, is it? You've also managed the Twins.
No, funny story. I managed, in fact, it was my first minor league managerial job. I was managing in Kenosha for the Minnesota Twins. 2 years ago, when I went back to Kenosha, it had been 30 years since I managed in Kenosha for the Twins. So 30 years later, I go back and manage the Kingfish. And that's how I actually got the job. We had made some very close friends 30 years earlier, and we went back to visit them, my wife and I, every summer. So we were in Kenosha visiting our friends, and the friend was the president of the Kenosha Twins. He is the one that got the club there in the first place. And so he's the one that told me, he says, hey, you know that Kenosha's getting a team back. I said, no, really? I had no idea. And he says, yeah, it's going to be a college league, North Woods League. And I hadn't been following college baseball, so I had never heard of the North Woods League. And I said, hey, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. I hope they support them. And I went home, back to Phoenix a couple of days later, and never thought anything about it. And then my friend Bob calls me at home after I get home and says, by the way, you wouldn't be interested in managing a team, would you? And I says, hey, I never thought about it. But yeah, I might be. Might be fun because it's only 10 weeks long. And get out of Phoenix in the hot summer. So yeah, I might be. So he knows the owners of the Kingfish very well, so he had them call me, and we talked it over, and I really love it. I enjoy it. I've been there 2 years, and I'm going back to the third, and they take great care of me, and my wife loves it in Wisconsin in the summertime, so it's worked out very well.
Very nice. Now, you also managed the El Paso Diablos, and so my dad was in the Army, and so we spent, I think, 3 years of my life in El Paso, in Fort Bliss, and as a youngster, I remember going to Diablo games. Of course, it was like mid-70s, 77, 78, but you led him to a first-half title in 1986. What do you remember about it being in El Paso?
I can remember the Dudley Dome. That was the stadium they had there. They have since built a new one many years ago. And the Dudley Dome was a tiny bandbox where there was a lot of home runs and a lot of runs scored. And funny thing about it, when a home player, one of our players hit a home run, they would pass the hat.
They'd pass the
hat, and the fans would throw money in the hat. And we had this one player, Latin player Jesus Alfaro. He played there 3 years in a row, and he probably hit 25 to 30 home runs every year there. And he collected quite a bit of money. The fans loved him because, it's obviously a lot of Spanish and Latin people there. So he was everybody's favorite, all the fans' favorite player. And so he made quite a bit of money. But it gave me all my gray hair because the game was different there. You never had enough runs. It was almost like playing on a Little League field. You could have a 10-run lead in the fourth or fifth inning, and you were still stealing and playing the game like it was a tied game or something, and or you could be 10 runs down and know you had a chance to come back. So But it was a lot of fun. I had 2 good years there. I had real good ball clubs both years, so I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
And that was with the Brewers, right?
Yes.
Now, was Jaha part of that team?
Yes, he was. Yeah, John Jaha was one of my better players.
He's a local guy, about 15, 20 miles from me.
Right.
So, yeah, up in Milwaukee, Oregon, yeah. So,
yeah,
nice guy, doing well.
Yes, he is. Very nice. Very nice guy.
So I'm going to let's close with this. What advice, the main piece of advice you give to young players today?
Well, if you're talking about the younger players, kids that are in the league or just getting out of league, going into high school, and that is to learn the fundamentals of the game, to learn the basics. You see a lot of things on TV by some of these guys that just have exceptional talent and can do a lot of things that most players can't do. And a lot of young players try to emulate that.
Right.
Instead of just learning the fundamentals. And a lot of coaches, as I work with high schools around here, a lot of coaches don't teach fundamentals very well. The game has changed a lot. They don't bunt as much anymore. You don't hit and run as much anymore. It seems like the home run is the big offensive tool now. So even high schools and that, if I was coaching or when I coach, I try to teach base running is very overlooked as a fundamental. Mm-hmm. Most youngsters are very poor base runners, even if they're very fast. Everybody associates base running with being fast.
Right.
You can be a good base runner even if you're very slow, just by being smart, knowing when not to try and take the extra base or knowing a situation of the game, when to try to take the extra base, things like that. Knowing how to bunt, both drag bunt and sacrifice bunt. Knowing how to slide. Players never practice sliding anymore. And there's a right and a wrong way to slide. A lot of injuries happen because kids don't know how to slide anymore.
Right.
And most coaches, I haven't seen a high school coach work on sliding around here, ever. I just haven't seen it. And so I would teach the youngsters to not only work on hitting or pitching. Everybody works on the pitching and the hitting part of it. But work on the little fundamentals. Work on how to catch a ground ball. Work on how to catch. Everybody thinks they can catch a fly ball. Everybody thinks they can catch a ground ball. But there's a right and a wrong way. You see some kids that have very poor mechanics. Good ball players need to have soft hands and quick feet. You're going to be a defensive player at all. And I don't see any kids working on things like that. And defense is very important in being a good all-around baseball player. And they need to work on things like base running and bunting and receiving the ball. If you're a catcher, learn how to catch a ball with soft hands and learn how to frame the ball to make them look like strikes. Learn how to block the ball in the dirt. And throwing is, it's terrible in the high schools around here. Kids, most of them throw with just their arm. They don't learn to use their hips and the bottom half of their body when they throw a baseball. Their mechanics are very poor, and footwork is very poor in throwing. And, things like that. There's so many things that are overlooked as far as fundamentals. They get much better. And I think they need to emphasize that kind of stuff more.
Once again, former New York Met Duffy Dyer, current manager of the Kenosha Kingfish. Duffy, hey, thanks for coming on the show. And
it's been a pleasure.
We would love to have you come back on at another time.
I love it. I love to talk baseball.
All right, hey, give me a go Mets.
All right, let's go Mets.
All right, let's go Mets. Once again, Mr.
Right.
Duffy Dyer. Duffy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, he hit it right on the head. Talking about base running and the defensive. You look at some of the players in the major leagues. They're kind of off. That slide. Everybody wants to knock on Utley about the slide, but he, Todd was out of position. What do you think, Brian?
Interesting take on that. I think, at least he's had a history of sliding outside. And, I'll say things have changed. When I was in high school, even then before that, they taught you take out the shortstop. And
absolutely.
Nowadays you can't. And you try to, and you play old school ball like Etley does, and you're sitting out 2 games, maybe 1, but 2 games.
I don't, you could argue the fact that he slid when he got to the bag, but I didn't really have a problem with that. I mean, Tejada has just a rough go, and he does. Utley has a knack for playing hard, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I think it's different nowadays. I think we're more cognizant of keeping players healthy because it's about the money. It's about keeping those players on the field. We were taught when we were kids, you take that guy out. If you didn't take that guy out, you ran laps next practice.
Yes.
I've guaranteed, trust me, I've done that. And I think he played old school ball. Can you play old school ball anymore? I don't know.
It's getting to a point where you can't. Let's see. We have a final. Chicago beats St. Louis 6-4. So Chicago moves on.
Harry Carey would be proud.
I'm telling you, I'm really excited for the playoffs. I mean, you got the youth of the Cubs. They're ahead of schedule where they should be. They knock off the juggernaut Cardinals, who've been to 4 NL National League Championship Series in a row. And now you got the Mets about to knock off the Dodgers.
Well, I wouldn't go too quickly on that.
Well,
but going back to the Cubs, I think it's great. I think everyone's a Cubs fan. Once again, all the Cubs fans come out. Welcome back onto the bandwagon. You had to come off from somewhere. I'm very excited for Joe Madden, who having that connection with him from Salem back in 1978, 77, and see him, hey, guys, he coached at Salem. He did this. It's great to see him be successful, and I think this shows what a great coach he really is.
Oh, absolutely. Great manager, great guy to play with. That youth of Chicago.
Yeah, they're going to be better. Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then over in the American League, of course, you got the Astros and the Rangers still plugging along, and you got the Rangers and Blue Jays tied up at 2.
Astros are ahead of the curve on their timeline, so
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Does it really matter? No, because next year will be an even year again, and we all know what even years means.
Yankees.
Another Giants title.
Oh, sorry.
So once again, this is Clubhouse Chatter. I'm Norm. That is Brian. And we are sponsored by Baseballisms.com. So if you like their gear, so I'm wearing their Flagman t-shirt, their childhood cancer hat, check them out. They got great stuff. Baseballism.com. Also sponsored by Base by Pros. He just had a golf tournament up there in Seattle area yesterday. I got to see how that went. Mitch Canham and Brenton Littlebridge guys up there in Washington. And then also sponsored by BaseballDudes.com. Chris Gazelle, to be the best, you must train like the best. And I hear our first Clubhouse Chatter gear is on its way this week. So
really,
I've got a couple of shirts.
Nice.
I've got a hoodie ordered. We're going to see what they look like, and we're going to be selling them. And so they're going to be cheap. And Mark Canham with MDM Designs, yes, that is Mitch Canham's dad. And so he does a great job for us. Every week we are on yamhilltoday.com. Check us out. Brian, you've got Yamhill Sports going on, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we've got a big football game coming up Friday night. McMinnville going to be at McKay on the only grass field left in Oregon in the 6A division.
Wow.
So there you go.
What do you got for
Yamhill Sports today?
Well, what do you got for prediction for the game?
Oh, for prediction, I say McMinnville wins by 2.5 touchdowns.
2.5.
Bingo. 20 points. Maybe even, let's make it a full 3 touchdowns. 21.
You're going on a limb.
You want me to make it 28?
Go
21.
Grizz.
21 Grizz.
Go Grizz. And so tell us a little bit about the shows.
Show's going to be big time this weekend, of course. We're going to talk about Pac-12. We're going to talk Linfield a little bit. We're going to talk about the high school night before and all that fun stuff. Wrap it up, and who knows, we might even get into a little bit of NFL.
Maybe a little baseball?
If you're willing to come on.
I'm always willing. I'm always willing to talk.
Well, we got a guy coming on to talk baseball as well.
Good. Good. So once again, I'm Norm. That's Brian. We love doing what we do. And, hey, if you want to sponsor the show, shoot me an email, normbo18@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at Clubhouse Chatter, 1T. We're on Facebook, Clubhouse Chatter. We're on YouTube, Clubhouse Chatter, and iTunes. And, just shoot me an email if you want to sponsor, not necessarily looking for monetary. We're willing to trade for items and whatnot. I just got a pair of batting gloves from Zeus Bats the other day, so we might be doing a giveaway with those. And so check us out, man. We, like I said, go home and watch some baseball. Everybody have a good week.